Imagine a tiny collection of colonies huddled along the Atlantic coast, daring to defy the greatest empire in the world. From humble beginnings, the United States grew into a global superpower, its influence shaping the destiny of nations across the globe. How did a fledgling nation, born in rebellion and adversity, rise to dominate the world stage? This is the story of the United States, from colony to world power. The story of the United States begins long before its declaration of independence. In the early 1600s, English settlers arrived in North America, seeking freedom, fortune, and new opportunities. Jamestown, established in 1607, became the first permanent English colony in the New World. Life was brutal, marked by famine, disease, and conflict with indigenous peoples. Yet against all odds, the colony endured. By the early 18th century, 13 colonies stretched along the eastern seaboard, each with unique cultures, economies, and governance. From the puritanical rigor of Massachusetts to the plantation wealth of Virginia, these colonies were united by one critical feature: their allegiance to Britain. But cracks began to form. The British Crown imposed heavy taxes and restrictive trade policies, sparking resentment among colonists. Events like the Boston Tea Party in 1793 showed that this wasn't just discontent, it was a brewing revolution. No taxation without representation became the rallying cry of the American Revolution. On July 4, 1776, the Continental Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence, a bold assertion of liberty, authored by Thomas Jefferson. The colony's decision to sever ties with Britain was nothing short of audacious. The Revolutionary War, 1775-1783, was a struggle for survival. Outmatched by Britain's military might, the Continental Army, led by General George Washington, relied on strategy, determination, and French support to achieve victory. The turning point came at the Battle of Saratoga in 1777, convincing France to ally with the young Republic. In 1781, the British surrender at Yorktown sealed the fate of the Revolution. The Treaty of Paris in 1783 recognized the United States as an independent nation. Independence brought challenges. The fledgling United States struggled with governance, prompting the drafting of the Constitution in 1787. This document, a masterpiece of political compromise, established a federal system with checks and balances. The Bill of Rights, added in 1791, guaranteed essential freedoms. Under Washington's presidency, the nation began to take shape. The Louisiana Purchase in 1803, under President Thomas Jefferson, doubled the country's size, fueling westward expansion. Yet, this expansion came at a cost: the displacement of Native American tribes and escalating tensions over slavery. The War of 1812, often called the Second War of Independence, tested the young nation's resolve. Though the war ended in stalemate, it bolstered national pride and solidified America's place on the world stage. In the 19th century, manifest destiny drove American expansion westward. Settlers streamed across the continent, building railroads, cities, and industries. But this growth was not without its darker side. Native American lands were seized, often violently, and the institution of slavery expanded into new territories. By the 1850s, the nation was deeply divided. The industrial North clashed with the agrarian South over slavery's future. The election of Abraham Lincoln in 1860, on an anti-slavery platform, ignited the Civil War, 1861-1865. The war was the bloodiest in American history, claiming over 600,000 lives. Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation in 1863 marked a turning point, transforming the conflict into a fight for freedom. The Union's victory preserved the nation and ended slavery, but Reconstruction brought new challenges as the country struggled to integrate freed African Americans into society. The late 19th century ushered in the Gilded Age, a period of rapid industrialization and economic growth. Railroads crisscrossed the nation, steel mills hummed, and oil barons like John D. Rockefeller amassed immense wealth. Immigration surged, with millions arriving from Europe in search of the American dream. Yet, beneath the prosperity lay inequality and corruption. Labour strikes erupted as workers demanded fair wages and conditions. Meanwhile, the US began to flex its muscles abroad. The Spanish-American War in 1898 marked the country's emergence as an imperial power, gaining territories like Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. The 20th century brought global conflicts that transformed the United States. In World War I, 1914-1918, the US joined the Allies in 1917, tipping the scales toward victory. President Woodrow Wilson's vision for a League of Nations sought lasting peace, but was thwarted by domestic opposition. World War II, 1939-1945, solidified America's superpower status. The attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941 drew the US into the war. By 1945, the United States had played a decisive role in defeating the Axis powers. The use of atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki not only ended the war, but also heralded a new era of global power dynamics. Post-war, the US led efforts to rebuild Europe through the Marshall Plan and emerged as a leader of the free world during the Cold War. The rivalry with the Soviet Union defined much of the latter half of the century, from the Korean and Vietnam Wars to the space race. Domestically, the mid-20th century was a time of social upheaval. The civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s, led by figures like Martin Luther King Jr., sought to dismantle racial segregation and discrimination. Landmark achievements included the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The late 20th century brought technological advancements, economic growth, and new challenges. The US emerged victorious from the Cold War, but conflicts in the Middle East, the rise of terrorism, and economic crises tested the nation's resilience. Today, the United States remains a global superpower, known for its military might, economic influence, and cultural exports. Yet, it faces pressing issues: political polarization, social inequality, and climate change. The nation's journey from colony to world power is a testament to its adaptability and ambition. It's a story of visionaries and ordinary people who shaped the destiny of a country and the world. The United States' legacy is still being written, one chapter at a time. From the embers of revolution to the heights of global dominance, the United States' story is one of transformation, triumph, and tenacity. Its past is both a guide and a warning, reminding us that the rise of any great power is marked by both brilliance and strife. What lies ahead for this empire builder? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain: its history has forever changed the world.